Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Rico Vasquez here with me today. How you doing, Rico?
I'm all right. How you doing today? I'm good.
I'm doing quite well, man. I see you rocking the lavender shirt. How you trying to be popping today? What's up?
Nah, not even. I don't know. I kind of like the color. It's kind of smooth. It's kind of it's like I don't know. I just got like a smooth vibe when I look at this shirt, so I just threw it on. Like, let me just go with that.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I was watching the interview, and Jay-Z had on this suit, and everybody kept saying, "Hey, I like your pink suit. I like your pink suit." He said, "Stop it. This is mauve."
Yeah.
Hey, so listen, man, I'm very happy to have you in the building this morning. Felicia, first one here. Much love to you, Felicia. She says good morning to everybody. Glad to have you in the building, Felicia. But we got a dynamic show for everybody today. If you know somebody who's always out for a good story, I want you to tell them to tune into America's Next Motivator right now. Find our Facebook TV page. Add us on Roku, E360 TV, Apple TV, and Android TV because we're smoking hot. Rico, where you from, man?
So I'm from New York, right?
Okay.
But originally I'm from Panama. I was born in Panama back in '88. Well, my parents are from other countries, but everyone came together and met in Panama, basically. So that's where I was
Wow.
born, and then I came to the United States when I was about 2 years old with my mom. My dad brought us here actually to, I guess, have a better life of some sort. Not that things back home were hard, but they just figured that it would be faster, easier, and more accessible to things here. So we came here when I was about 2. Grew up in Brooklyn most of my life. So Flatbush, Brooklyn, to be exact. That's where I'm from.
Okay.
And yeah, that's New York City.
All right. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna unfold that. People might not realize it, but you said a lot just now, and a lot of experiences went into those travels from Panama to New York. Even your family coming from different parts of the world to unite in Panama.
hmm
How old were you when you left Panama?
2 years old. I was
You were
2
two
when I
years
left.
old.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the roots, the culture, and the ambiance there in Panama?
I know a little bit because something in me always wanted to stay connected in some way,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of even though I wasn't there. So I would so for example, we have this thing called it's a festival where they call it El Día de los Diablos. Basically, it's a festival that happens once a year, but depending on where you are, it's celebrated every Sunday. And basically, people dress up in costumes with different face shapes and different styles of of costumes, basically, and you create these costumes according to your image, to what your inner spirit is, I guess, of your thought of what the Diablo is. But Diablo is devil in Spanish, right?
Okay.
So basically, uh, everyone comes out, everybody in the community comes out, they gather around, and there's food, there's music, there's drums, there's bongos and things like that. And basically, you have the devils, and then you have the people who are dressed in white. So there's a little bit more history behind what exactly the meaning of it is. I'm not sure, but what I do know is that basically it was the day that they captured, they captured, and I guess the devil surrendered, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that celebrates, is the day that the devil
Sure.
surrendered. So I know a little bit about the foods and things like that. For example, there's this food that we have called sweet corn. I mean, it's called
Okay.
chicheme, right?
Okay.
So it's made with corn and sweet milk, but it's a special way that they prepare it, that
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like that you can, the way that it's prepared, you can have it for any time of the day. You could have it
Okay.
for breakfast, you could have it for lunch. It's called chicheme. Great, amazing. It tastes good. So that's a little
All
bit
right.
of what I know.
Now, Panama, is it a mostly Spanish speaking place, or do they speak different languages as well?
We speak multiple different languages there. A lot of languages are spoken there, but the main language of the land is Spanish.
Okay.
But the original people that were there they're Indians. The
Okay.
original people there are Indians, and then later on they became white Indians, and then they later on after that became Motizos, I think is what they're called, and then they changed again. But we
Okay.
have a part of Panama where it's called Colón, which is where my dad is from.
Okay.
Right, his family kind of settled there, and they speak pure English, and they have more of a Caribbean vibe. They have more of
Mm.
like a Jamaican style kind of. They even when they're speaking Spanish, they have that Caribbean Rasta kind of swag to them, and that's in Colón, and that's where all the black people live.
Okay.
Everyone there can speak English and Spanish, and
People
that's where
are
they
people
are.
are people are speaking multiple languages,
Yep.
and if you've never heard somebody speak Spanish with a Jamaican accent, that's pretty much the area that you come from. So,
Right.
I mean, you already come from a unique perspective. It's not often that you meet somebody who is sort of a Jamaican and Spanish mix at
Hmm.
one time. And you spoke about this festival that you mentioned earlier from Panama. And one thing that I want to add about that is that particular culture, that particular celebration was about understanding the other side of life.
Hmm.
When you understand the other side of life, then you can live your life to the fullest. See, when
Yes.
there's a big unknown, when there's a big elephant in the room, which is the other side of life that you know nothing about, then it can cause fear on the side of life in which you exist. And
Hmm.
so, in order to totally be brave, in order to be totally courageous and be totally bold, meekness is the way that we describe it. You have to have a level of understanding of the other side of life. And I think it's interesting that given all the things that you're about to go through, you come from a culture that specializes in understanding the other side of life.
Hmm.
Talk to me about where you moved to when you came to America.
Okay, so we came into the United States, moved to Brooklyn. We lived in Starrett City, Brooklyn, right? So we
Okay.
lived there. We lived there for about 2 years or so, or maybe a year. And shortly after that, then we moved down to North Carolina. My dad was doing his thing and whatnot, and
Hold on,
then
hold on, hold on, hold on. When you say your dad was doing his thing, what do you mean by that?
so so my dad was a drug dealer. He was a
Okay.
big time drug dealer. He was the supplier for Brooklyn.
Okay.
If he wasn't in town or if he wasn't in contact with certain people, no one would be eating. No one would eat, kind of thing is what his position was.
Okay.
He came up with an idea. He was a smart guy according to the stories that I hear. So long, so he was like a mastermind kind of thing, and he came up with this idea, and he was good with people. So he had people in the airports working with him and whatnot. And he would feed and take care of a lot of families and things like that. He would take care of a lot of people. So that kind of gave him a leverage to be able to move around a little bit more freely in what he was doing.
Okay.
So, but in all reality, it's almost as if he was doing what he was doing to feed families because he wasn't really doing anything silly. He was actually feeding people. So yeah, so we were down in North Carolina for quite some time. Well, we had a house down there. We had a pool, and there were a lot of friends. My dad had a lot of family friends that would come around and spend time with us. And then we returned back to Brooklyn. Uh,
How
what
long did you all stay in North Carolina?
we were in North Carolina for about a year and a half. We were down there for, and then we ended up having to leave North Carolina because my dad, uh, one of his teammates, I believe it was his wife, something happened and she ended up calling the police, and everyone, and it just took everything apart. You know,
So how old were you at this time?
by this time I was maybe about, I should have been about 3.5, 4 years old.
So let me break this down for the people. By the time you were 4 years old, you went from living in Panama to living in Brooklyn to living in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So you're already on a world tour at a very young age, and you're also living the life that's being provided by someone who's essentially in the streets. He's doing dealings in the streets.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so now when things got rough in North Carolina, where was your mother?
So my mother was present the entire time. My mom was always there. Being that we were coming from another country, my mom's English wasn't all that well. You know,
Okay,
her English was a little shaky. It still is to this day. It's funny, but she tries, and she shoots for the stars, because even though her English is not that great, she can read and write in English. You know,
mm-hmm.
so I give her a big ups for that. But my mom was there. She was there. She was the one making sure that I ate food. She was the one that made sure that things were in order in the house. The house was clean at all times, and you know, she cooked dinner and kept my dad in line, because although he was an intelligent guy, I feel that sometimes he would get too deep into his thoughts and into what he was doing, that he would kind of lose sight of reality in certain ways as far as what his responsibilities were.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom, she was there all the time. You know, she was always home with me, and she would rather have someone come to the house and spend time with us rather than us going somewhere or her having me outside. You know, she was very
Right.
protective, very, very protective. She did not want me around my father's first son, which was my older brother, due to the lifestyle. She
Okay.
was extremely protective of me, because according to my mom, she didn't know anything about this lifestyle. My
Okay.
dad promised her a better life, and she was a schoolgirl. She was in school. You know, she graduated from college. She was working at a bank. She's about 10 years younger than my dad, right? So in Panama or in the Caribbean islands, most of the time, uh, you would find that a man would be 15 to 20 years older than a woman. That's normal. It's not a big deal. You know, it's not a
Okay.
thing. So my mom being a schoolgirl and also being young, she didn't she wasn't she wasn't able to see exactly what was happening until she was already here. It was already all said and done, right? So by the time she actually found everything out, things had already gotten rough, you know.
Right.
So
Wow. Wow. I'm thinking that this is like the beginnings of a movie because
I want to do that. I want to put this on, because there's so many details that I don't never put out, because I don't want to give away the entire story. But
Mhm.
there's so many details, rather, if it's my father's brothers and his cousins and the way
Mhm.
things were moving and how they had things put together, that I feel that it would be a great story for people to see or hear.
Well, I mean, that's what we're doing today is we're telling part of that story. We're giving people a look into the life of Rico Vasquez. Now, your mother really didn't know much about the dealings of your father, but your mother was pretty much providing a stable home environment for you. So now, what happened after you all left North Carolina? Where did you go next, and what did you all do?
After we left North Carolina, where did we go next and what did we do? So, okay, so my dad was deported, right?
Wow.
So that happened on Rips. He was deported. So we immediately we left North Carolina immediately. We didn't waste any time. We didn't wait. We didn't. So we left North Carolina. We came back to Brooklyn, New York. We stayed with my dad's. We ended up staying with my dad's mother. You know, we had to go and live with her for a short while, because we didn't know anything about the land. We didn't know anything about the country. We didn't know where to go, who to talk to, what to do. So we reached out to the nearest resource, which was my father's mother. My,
Wow.
my father's mother did not like my mother. My father's sisters, and or as far as I know, the entire family had no kind of loving, nurturing, or any kind of support towards my mother and myself. Right? It may be towards me a little bit because I'm my father's son, but not my mom. So we end up living with my father's mom for some time, and that was rough. We were
Wow.
there for, in the process of this, right? My father, this is where it gets a little critical for me, honestly, and this is where the growth in personality had to come in, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because this part of the story I've never ever really just openly just told anyone either, because of the certain things that happen in this part of the story, right? But the growth process of accepting my pain, my history, my pain, and where I come from, and using it to identify other things mentally or emotionally within the world, is why I tell the story. And also just to touch others and help others understand or see it's okay. We still strong men, we still here, and we can still move forward. So we're there, we're living with my dad's mom, and my dad's mom is a woman that she take care of people. She would pick up a homeless man off the street, bring him home and say, you got 6 months to get yourself together. This is what you got to do. And if you don't do this, you got to get out of my house.
Wow.
So she started doing this back in her country. She's Costa Rican, right? So she used to do that back in her land, and that's just the way that side of the family operates. And I assume that's why they're all nurses. So she adopted a young man while she was in Panama, and then she brought him to the States, right? So then, while we were living there, he's there. This guy, he's in. I don't know what his age is. I still don't know. But long story short, this guy was always watching porn, things like that. And one day he decided that he wanted to involve me in his behavior, watching the porn and masturbating and whatever the case may be, doing things like that. I may be about 4 years old, right? Long story short, one day he decides that he wanted me to start massaging him. So then I went and I told my mom, Ma, his name was Papa. I said, Papa told me to do X, Y, and Z. Now, because of my lifestyle and the way that it's the amount of things that I've seen, I was already kind of advanced. I was able to put two and two together and talk clear. So I told my mom what happened. My mom goes and confronts him. He decides that he wants to get aggressive. My mom ended up having to stab him in the face with a fork. I believe it was in the nose. So then he now takes it to a new level. He goes in the kitchen. He picks up 2 kitchen knives. He has one in each hand. And he stabs my mom twice in her back, punctured her lung, and she was in the hospital for about 6 months. Now, when he stabbed her, she started bleeding. He automatically jumps out the window. He leaves the house. He runs. My father's cousin now just so happens to come in the house. He just walks in. So he sees my mom bleeding. Her shirt is drenched in blood. She tells me to get my sister now, right? So I mentioned my sister. I forgot. My dad had gotten my mom pregnant just before he was deported. So now I have a younger sister. We're living at my grandmother's house. My mom got right.
Okay.
My mom got stabbed shortly right after my sister was born. So my sister is maybe about a month old or 2 months old. So my mom's bleeding out. My father's cousin now rushes us outside. Now this is all in Brooklyn. Rushes us outside, and there's a guy outside sitting there, and he's warming up his car because he's getting ready to go to work. It's about like, I don't know, 2 a.m. It's late night. It's cold. He's warming up his car. So my uncle goes, "Hey, can you help us out?" Ray. He looks at my mom and he goes, "Come on, what you asking me for?" Is kind of what his reaction was,
Yeah.
So he's like, "Let's go." So he throws my mom in the front seat because by this point she's beginning to slow down. You know, she
Right.
was fine the entire time. She was moving around, but she's slowly moving. You know, she didn't panic. She wasn't screaming. She was behaving as if she's done this before. You know,
Right.
she was behaving as if she
Wow.
knew what time it was. Like, you know, like she's been in the streets or something. Like
Right.
she was moving very cautiously. Walked outside. No one was holding her. Nothing. We walked outside. She got in the car, but by this time she's getting weak, so they helped her into the car. We go to Kings County Hospital, and that's that part of the story. You know, that was my first ever incident in my life at 4 years old, you know, to have a sexual encounter with an adult, which was, to me, is mind blowing. You know,
Right. Right. So you know, I want to ask you, and first of all, thank you for being transparent with us, because we have to have this level of transparency in order to understand the makings of a person. See, it's not always that somebody wants to be antisocial or disruptive, violent, angry, or misunderstood. Sometimes it's that you have faced tremendous trauma and adversity before you could even understand what was going on around you, and you just want to protect yourself. How did you feel when your father got deported? Do you remember having any feelings when that happened?
Yeah. I remember a lot of things because I feel like I was already awake before I was even. It's hard to explain, but I could remember things as if it happened yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing him sitting there in handcuffs, and I was wondering to myself, the only thing I was thinking about was, "Are you coming back?" That's the only thing I could think of, and I feel that thought stuck to my DNA, like it stuck to me as a person, and it caused almost every behavior after that day to be, "Are you coming back?" And that's what I remember feeling. "Are you coming back?" And I never really remember asking for him, like, when is he coming, or how. I already knew what was going on. I just
Right.
but the thought and everything was just the same. It was always, "Are you coming back?" But so because of the thought of "Are you coming back?" and the feeling, I honor I love my dad as if I'm with him every single day. That thought or that feeling caused me to grow that inside of myself. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love him, and like I didn't speak to my dad for 10 years.
Wow.
I didn't speak to my dad until I was 11 years old. And there's a
Wow.
lot of reasons why. And then I didn't speak to my dad again until I was 23 years old. And
Okay.
there's some other reasons in between that also.
Right.
But because of the thought of "Are you coming back?" and caused me to grow that certain kind of love and honor to him. When I spoke to him, it was a neutral. It was a regular conversation. We spoke for 2 hours the first time we spoke again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what I remember. That's what I remember. "Are you coming back?" Like,
Yeah. You know, I'm hoping that something happened next that brought about some healing for you, for your mother, for your grandmother, and even for your father.
mhm.
Talk to me about what happened after your mother went to the hospital.
Okay, so my mom was in the hospital for about 6 months. She used to smoke a lot of cigarettes, so she had to stay there for quite some time. So now she returns back home once her lungs cleared up. She returns back home, and we we stayed there for about a week or two, and then we just went on a journey. We went on a journey after that. It was just every life became a mission. It became a learning mission. That's what it became, a learning mission, because we didn't know anything about the country.
Right.
So so we leave now, and my mom meets a guy. She meets a guy, and she, this her boyfriend, and they were together for maybe a year, and we end up we end up moving in with him. Actually.
Okay.
So now my sister's about 2 years old now. So I'm about maybe 6 years old now. Or yeah, because so I'm about 6 years old now. My sister's 2. My mom met the guy, and then she had another child. Right. So I have 2 younger siblings. So now when she meets my sister's father, they get into a situation. Excuse me. Yes, they get into a situation, and we end up going into foster care. So now we go into foster care. We're staying with my sister's father's sister, so my sister's aunt. We stayed there for about 2 months. Then we returned. From there, we went to my father's cousins. We were there for about a year. Right. So we left my mom when I was about 6 years old. Excuse me, 2 years. We left my mom when I was 6 years old, and we returned back home at 8 when I was 8 years old. So in that time, we left my grandma's house. My mom met a guy. She got pregnant. We lived with his sister. We lived with my father's cousin. And then from there, we went back home to my mom. And when we went back home to my mom's boyfriend used to abuse my younger sister. Right?
Wow.
He used to abuse my younger.
You know what? We're going to take a break right now because this is really heavy. Your story has to be told. I'm glad that you came to America's Next Motivator to bring your story to the public. I know that you've been speaking in the past, but today you're taking it up a level. It's just you and I and the world out there. Thanks for being a part of this episode, everybody out there. Tell a friend, tell a family member to tune into America's Next Motivator, because we're not done here. This story is going to get better and better and better with Rico Vasquez. We'll be right back after this brief message. America's Next Motivator. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator. Hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. Hopefully you got somebody else and brought them to the stream, because it's stories like these that make our society a better place. When I say that it's stories like these that make our society a better place, what I mean is that thousands and thousands and thousands of young people and families across America are going through things just like what Rico is going through. We have to raise awareness that young children and women are being preyed upon. There are predators out there. There are predators out there who look for mothers who are going from place to place with their children. There are predators out there who look for young children, 4 years old and 5 years old, so that they can manipulate them and take advantage. You've got to know there's a young person out there like Rico right now being mistreated, being abused, and being disrespected. We've got to raise awareness. We've got to stick together. We've got to unite. We've got to protect one another.
Yes, sir.
When you see a mother going from place to place, and she's the type of woman who's went to school, she keeps her house clean, she wants to keep her children safe. Please find a way to provide a resource. Refer somebody who can help. Refer an agency that can help. Let's help one another, y'all. Rico, I hope you're feeling brave out there. What's going on?
I'm feeling good. I'm here.
All right. So you and your mother, you're going place to place. You're learning. You got siblings with you. Y'all are learning. Y'all are in survival mode. Y'all are in full-fledged survival mode. And for those people who don't know what survival mode is when you are doing your very best to feed, clothe, and develop yourself and your family. On the run. Take a look around. The children have to use the bathroom every hour. You have to use the bathroom every couple hours. Every couple of weeks, your children have grown out of their clothing. Every few weeks, you as an adult, you have anxiety about where your family is going next. So Rico, you and your siblings landed in foster care. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Where'd you guys go into foster care at?
Brooklyn. In Brooklyn. We were. That's back when BCW was a popular thing to do. It was. Was a popular thing to call. BCW was. I forgot. I never really knew what it's basically. ACS, Child Protective Services.
Yeah. Anytime you start talking about them acronyms, it's like Brooklyn Children's Services.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably what it was.
Brooklyn Children. That B stand for Brooklyn and that C stand for children. I know that.
I think W stands for welfare. Or maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I remember the term because it was something that was used a lot in school, around in the neighborhood. You know, someone would see something happening and they would say, "I'm about to call BCW." You know, so that was always a thing. That was a thing back then.
About everything.
Yeah, exactly. That was a thing back then. So, so we were living in Brooklyn, and we went into foster care, and so all of this was Brooklyn. All of this happened in Brooklyn.
All right. Did you get placed with your sister, or were y'all separated?
We were fortunate to stay together for some time. We were together. The first run when we went into foster care, I was 8, and we stayed together because we were with my sister's aunt, and then we were with my father's cousin, and then we returned back home. So we were actually fortunate to be able to stay together through that time. You know, we were really young too, so that was really special.
Yeah. Now, being that you had already been on such a journey in life, going into foster care, did it make you wrap your arms around your brothers and sisters a little bit tighter?
I don't know if it could have gone any tighter than what we already were because of the circumstances and how my mom trained us.
Yeah.
Like, we just naturally had this thing embedded in us that where we didn't have to ask each other any questions to understand or know what the other person was feeling.
Right.
You know? My mom, I would babysit my sisters because my mom didn't have any trust in anyone. So at 6 years old, I was changing diapers, warming bottles, old school way too. I would put the pot on the stove, you know, with the water, put the bottle in there, test it, you know. Yep. So we were close because of all of that. You know, I guess me feeding them and changing their diaper made them closer to me and me closer to them.
Wow. And so, you know, that's great because that right there, it can't be taught. The connection between brothers and sisters, the connection between family members is very difficult to teach. And so even though your home environment became unstable and you went into foster care, you had learned one of the most valuable lessons that you could learn in life, which is being connected, literally spiritually connected to your brothers and sisters. And I'm sure that impacted your resiliency when you all faced adversities in foster care. Is that correct?
Yes, it did. It made everything around us that was happening feel like it wasn't even happening. It made it the only time that I could say that I was very emotional was when I actually took the time to actually sit down and think about my mom not being there, not being present, right? But besides that, because I had my sister there and we felt at home because we were all there together, we whatever foster home we went to, as long as we were able to stick together, we were fine. But once we began to get pulled apart, which eventually did happen, that's when we started to go through our feelings, those emotions.
Yeah, when you get pulled apart, from your brothers and sisters, you start to your inner storm starts spilling out all over the place.
Yeah, and that's basically what happened.
Yeah. so you guys eventually y'all got separated, and at that point you became upset.
Yeah, when I was 14 years old, when I was 14, because we went back into foster care when I was 11 years old. After we went back home, we went back into foster care when I was 11, because at this point my mom didn't have, due to her English and she not trusting anyone, we didn't have many ways to get any money, right? So there were days. So our diet basically was oatmeal, which is good for you, fried plantains, fried cheese, and salami. That's what we basically ate every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That was what all my mom had to be able. That's all my mom had to provide for us back then. Also, plantains were 8 for $1, which now you probably get 2 for $1, or maybe it's way different. So you would get 8 for $1. So that's what we used to eat on a regular basis. We ate plantains. So now at 11, so we lose our apartment, right? Because my mom didn't have any way to provide for it. And at this point now, she's a single mom. She's completely by herself, no boyfriend, nobody's around. She has 3 kids. Her English is not that well. Her kids have been through situations, so she can't bring nobody around anymore. She has to just handle her business. So we end up now we lose our apartment. We roam in the streets. We trying to find somewhere to go. We going from shelter to shelter to shelter. We even jumped on a bus ride all the way to California to go to one of her friend's house. And when we got there, her friend's boyfriend said, "I can't stay here." So we ended up leaving the same day. We just got there. Mind you, like you said, children need to use the bathroom every few hours or every hour, and adults. I was peeing on myself constantly. I might have used the bathroom myself a couple times, because when you're switching from bus to bus and you trying to catch your bus, you don't want to miss your bus. We running around, I was using the bathroom myself a couple times. My mom just had to swallow all of this. I could see it in her face that she was uncomfortable with it, but she just kept a smile on her face. So now we back in New York again. We running around. We lose the place. We end up in a basement apartment. So now we in the basement apartment. We in the basement apartment for about a year. I remember this because on New Year's, I was playing Nintendo, which is one of the first video game systems my dad got me which was one of the first things my dad got me when we came to the States.
Right.
He got me a Nintendo. So my mom one day goes to the store. She goes out to go buy some cigarettes. She locks us in the apartment with a padlock from the outside. So we can't open the door from the inside. One of the neighbors in the basement apartment, because there were multiple apartments in the basement, one of the neighbors seen the door lock, and I guess they seen my mom leave without us. So they call the cops. The cops come. They're talking to us through the door. They pull the door off the hinges. My mom comes now. She thought I did something wrong, so she gets furious. Like, "What did you do?" I said, "I didn't do nothing." They came I was talking to them, whatnot, and that's what I feel personally like I slipped up because I knew the protocol, which is not to answer the door ever. It don't matter. My mom said, don't answer the door even if it's me, because the devil disguises him. The devil can come in any disguise. So that was what she used to say. It's like, so I knew not to ever open the door, but for some reason that day I went and I was talking at the door. I don't know why, but I did that. So my mom gets arrested. I seen everything unfold right there. Like I seen everything just flash. My mom basically lost it. She had a nervous breakdown. It was over. It was a done deal. It was enough. So my mom had a nervous breakdown, and she's in the cell now, and we're in the precinct. So we're in the precinct, and my mom says to me, "Take care of your sisters," as if she already knew. Right. She said, "Take care of your sisters. Make sure that your sisters are safe and that y'all stay together and nothing happens to you." So right. That was my journey. That was my journey. Automatically, right. She gave me my last bit of direction before we parted ways. Right. She gave me what to do before we parted ways. So now we separate from my mom. We go to a foster home. Right. Excuse me. We go to the ACS building. From the ACS building, we were in the ACS building overnight. In the morning, we got in a van. This van now was filled with kids from all over New York City, and they were literally driving us around New York, just dropping us off one by one, dropping us off.
Wow. Hold on.
For real.
Your mother essentially told you, listen, now is the time for you to become a man. I want you, Rico, to grow some wings and fly. Now you got to fly.
Mm-hmm.
What was your perspective of manhood when you were sitting in that van watching all those other kids get dropped off? What were you going to do when you got dropped off?
So I didn't know where we were going. My thoughts were, where are we going? And to answer the question, what was I going to do when I got dropped off, was to make sure that where we were was safe. I was coming in aggressively. I was coming in asking questions. I'm paying attention. I'm like, my sight on things it changed. I was able to see things and feel things before it happened, kind of thing. So I was coming in aggressive. That was my thought process coming into any foster home.
Now let me just insert this here. You might look at Rico. How old were you at this time, Rico?
11.
Okay. You might look at Rico, 11 years old. His pants might be sagging a little bit. And you might say, look at this young African-American kid. Look at this young black kid just ripping and running, upset at the world, mad at the world, tearing stuff up, not doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't know, Rico is actually from Panama. He has international parents. He's not what you would call an African American. He might look like somebody you know, but you don't know him.
Mm-hmm.
You've never seen him before. You don't know his backstory, and you don't understand that he is now in protection mode. This man he's a warrior. He's a 12-year-old warrior. No, he's not a square kid walking down the street. He's a warrior because he just saw his mother get hauled off in handcuffs and told him to protect his brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say was the sum of your experiences in foster care?
The sum it all up together.
Yep.
My experiences in foster care taught me how to survive, basically, because there was a foster home where we couldn't go into the refrigerator after a certain time. So that taught me that you need to be able to provide for yourself in order not to feel less than who you are with something as small as food. Like, I don't have to beg you on my knees for a plate of food. So that taught me to learn how to provide, or that I had to provide for myself in a way that no one can be above me. Wow. It taught me it made me become a person It made me become an individual. It made me not follow nobody's rulings that didn't make sense to me. It made me really pay attention to what's being said, how it's being said, what's being done after it's being said, how it looks as it's being done. If I see anything looking a little weird, automatically I know something's off, something's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. So it also taught me how to be extra loving, more loving and caring than the average person because I
Yeah.
didn't have it. So
Right.
I have a different idea, a different vision of what love and support looks like. I see
Talk
that a
about
lot of,
that. Talk
right?
about that. From your perspective now, you know what you didn't have. You know what you wanted. So now I want you to tell us what love is. What is love? Talk to us.
Okay, so for me, love has nothing to do with anything that's materialistic and whatsoever at all. You buying your wife or your anyone an expensive gift does not mean that you love them, right? To me, when loving you, showing somebody that you love them, or some knowing that somebody loves you, for me, is them doing things without you asking them. The person knowing when you're not feeling well, even when you have a straight face, knowing that you're not feeling well, even when you're smiling, um, picking up on just about anything, just knowing you, really knowing you inside, almost as if when they look at the middle of your chest, they can see you who you are. They see the
Wow.
person. They see who's standing right there,
Wow.
regardless of all of the titles and all of the things that surround them. See, once I pull myself away from allowing titles and allowing materials and allowing systematic thinking and ways of doing things, to once I stepped away from that, then I began to realize this is the kind of love that my mom's displayed for me. This is the kind of
Wow.
love that my mom showed me. This is the love that my mom was talking about and what she was doing. So I got a clear interpretation of my mom's love towards me, and I pass it on to my children. So we have no dealings in showing love by materials. The
Mhm.
love is by randomly in the middle of the night, I just go in the room and give you a head massage, rub your scalp, let that vibration run through your body really quickly. You know, walking up on you while you're sleeping and just randomly rub your, things like that.
Yeah.
When you're eating, for example, when my kids are eating, I sit there with them, but then I really embrace them. I look them straight in their eyes, and I talk to them direct so that they can feel that centering. So that's love to me.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And one thing that I think is so powerful about that is your mother, she showed you the best type of love, regardless of what y'all went through and what you would go through after you were living with her. She gave you like the number one value of a human being, which is actual love, not fake love, not conditional love, um, not something that's bleak here 1 minute, gone the next, but real, true love. And when somebody sees that in you, they realize, oh, this person is valuable. Oh,
Yeah.
this person is different. Oh, this person is it. He's got it, that which cannot be taught.
Hmm.
Unconditional love, true love, cannot be taught. It's something that is born in you and that you can share with others. So
Hmm.
I think that you're already changing the generational realities of what's happened in your family.
Hmm.
That must have taken that. I mean, it takes all you have to provide what you don't have. You know.
Hmm.
Now, you say that you have some children. Can you talk about some of the successes that you had along the way? Obviously, your mind started to change about what you were going through, and you at some point you must have started thinking, "Hey, I got to make myself a success in life."
Yeah, that's true. So honestly speaking, I feel like although things were the way that they were, I feel that I've always been successful. It wasn't material or money, but I've always been successful because some way somehow I would always accomplish what it is that I was trying to get. That was a thing. I was always up. You know, the only thing I could say I was unsuccessful in was becoming the biggest gangster in New York, and that's what I that's what I wanted to be when I
Yeah.
was young. Like that was my life goal. Like I sat down one day and I said to myself, I want to be the biggest gangster in New York, and this is how I'm going to do it. So that's I failed at that because there came a point where I said to myself, this is not life. I was sitting down in the cell, and I remember because they just finished stripping me naked, and I was sitting in the cell, and I said to myself, this is not life. Like I'm tired of this. I can't do this no more. This is not life. What is this? So
So
that's when I
so you decided to go another direction with
yeah,
your potential and with your talents.
exactly. And what I did with that, and then that's when I realized this is not life, and I switched lanes is when I got into working with foster kids. I got into working with a agency called You Gotta Believe,
Wow.
and I that's you know I actually the agency was been trying to get me to come on board since I was 17 years old,
Okay.
right? Because they were the ones who connected me with my social worker, who became my moral adopted mom, and that's so they've been trying to get me to come on for a long time. So in 2016, I finally just gave in. Like, you know what? Let me try this. Let me do this because, and I'm happy that they were there because that gave me a direction. That was my out.
So let me get
Had
this
that
straight. Hold on. Let me get this straight. After everything that you went through, an agency came along, saw value in you. They saw the potential, they saw the talent, and they said, Rico, we want you to start now changing the lives of young people who are in the foster care system. Is that correct?
pretty much, yes.
I think that's tremendous. I think that is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's phenomenal on your part for changing the trajectory of your own life. And I think it's phenomenal on the part of You Gotta Believe for seeing the agent of change that you truly are. Rico, I want you to take exactly 1 minute. I want you to talk to young men and women who are out there in the foster care system today. They've been through traumatic experiences and they need to hear a word from you. Go ahead.
All right. So, young boys and girls, I put it to you like this, right? So, everything that's given to us on a daily basis, rather, if it's love for my friends or, working at a job and whatever the case may be, what I'm trying to say is that you have to start with yourself first. No one outside of us knows what we're feeling. Only we understand what we feel, and only we understand what the life is. Only we understand what needs to be done. So trying to find an external love is not going to work for you. So you have to find it within yourself. And how do you do that? You start by slowly pulling yourself away from materials. And how do you do that? When you see a pair of sneakers or something that you want, you don't buy them. You tell yourself, I'm going to buy them next week, and you find something else that you can put your time into. And then slowly but surely, little by little, you're going to start to get away from materials, and that's going to allow you to start paying more attention to yourself and loving yourself a little bit more. And it's going to give you newer ideas on how you can improve yourself, because feasting on wanting to buy things is just going to take away from you. You putting yourself in many different places at one time. You
Yep.
got to definitely put yourself all in one and love yourself. Now, I understand that things don't look like they're happening for you, but things are happening. And as long as you're taking steps, as long as you're making connections with people and having good people skills, number one thing I say, learn how to speak. Once you do, those are the things that are going to help you get to the next level. And as you go on, you're going to know, you're not even going to realize how much you've grown until you actually take a step back and look at how far you've come and what it is
Excellent.
that you're doing.
Excellent. Rico, we've heard a tremendous story from you today. We got 1 minute left, and so we're going to wrap this up as concisely as possible. I want to ask you in parting, what is success to you?
So to success for me is loving yourself strongly and building an extremely tight bond with your family and friends, or even if it's just with your family, so tight that it's untouchable. No matter
What is
what
greatness?
happens,
What is greatness to you?
greatness to me is being so secure with yourself that you can never be broken. You can't be
You know
touched.
what? You know what, Rico? I want to let you know that I've listened to your story today. I've seen the work that you've been putting in. I see you on social media. Reeks Pesos, and what's your name on Instagram?
My who's this dude?
Who's this dude on Instagram? You know, I've seen you work, and I want to let you know I respect your journey. I respect the way that you've turned your life around. I commend your work. I want to give you a crown today while you're still living. I want to let you know and let the world know that you are America's next motivator.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming today, all right?
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Love and respect, bro.
Love and respect at all times. Ladies and gentlemen, each and every episode of America's Next Motivator will have something here for you. All you've got to do is stop by and pick it up.